everyone, and welcome to the Becoming an Empowered Parent series, offering expert tools for embracing imperfection, building connection, and creating more peace and joy within your family. I am so happy and grateful that you're here. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Debbie Zeichner. I'm a parent coach, mindfulness facilitator, and licensed clinical social worker. And today I am just so excited to be joined by Tony and Liz Orozco. Welcome.
Yeah.
We're so excited to be reconnected. Tony and Liz are joining us today. We're going to be talking all about parenting on the same page, a very, very important topic for us to be able to dive into. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I know it's something that comes up all the time in the work that I do, and I know it comes up all the time in the work that you do. So before we dive in, I'd like to share with you all a bit more about Liz and Tony. Tony and Liz Orozco have been married since the year 2000 and have 4 children. Tony is a marriage and family mentor and speaker who graduated from the University of Fullerton, California. Liz graduated from California State University, Fullerton, with a bachelor's degree in childhood and adolescent development studies. Both of them are active members and trainers for the Positive Discipline Association since the year 2011. They both give parenting and marriage educational tips in television segments at Univision Network and are very active within their social media. Fabulous social media following, by the way. They are full-time parenting educators at public schools, organizations, and churches through their Disciplina Positiva Corporation. So again, welcome guys. So I met Liz and Tony years and years ago at one of our annual Positive Discipline conferences. We have this annual think tank. Yes. And besides just being so impressed with the amazing work that they do in just the community and just all around the world, I just was so, I just love their warmth and their energy. I was always so struck by, and don't make fun of me guys, but I was always just so struck by your smiles. Every time I look at them, they were smiling and they were just, I just really love your warmth and energy. And I just feel that they are just such positive role models for what a healthy relationship is all about. And I'm just so looking forward to this conversation today where they get to share their relationship tips and secrets with us. So thank you again.
Well, thank you. First of all, it's an honor being here. Thank you for the invitation. I mean, we love doing conferences, both of us, and this topic, it's amazing. It's not just because we're married and also dealing with our kiddos, but also because it's a difficult journey. It's not easy, but however, it's possible to live in a happy place. And not all the time, but it's good.
Yeah. And there's certainly going to be, as we all know, there's going to be these ups and downs in our relationships. And I think, you know, I'm really looking forward to what you have to share as far as kind of guiding us on that path within our relationship as we do this work and this parenting work. So let's just start by, if you'd like to just share with us a bit about your journey, how you got into this work, how you got into positive discipline, you know, parent education, and also just working with couples.
Yeah. So I'll start off. So I was at a Barnes and Noble bookstore where I was looking, my background is child development, and we had a 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old little girl. And I felt like I needed more knowledge about how to discipline. So I ran into positive discipline. And it just struck me, Dr. Jane Nelson, when she said, you know, where do we get the crazy idea that, you know, by making kids feel bad, they're going to do better. Right. So when I read that at Barnes and Noble, I was taken. I couldn't, you know, it was so powerful. So I went home and I read the book, and interestingly enough, I never shared it with Tony.
Really?
I didn't. So, I mean, talking about being on the same page, I just thought, well, I'm going to do this. And
you're going to take it and run.
I'm going to take it and run, and he'll just follow along. So I left it on my bookshelf, and he ran into the book, and he started reading. He said, this is a wonderful book. Why hadn't I seen this before? I'm like, I know, you should really read it. It's really great. So that same day, he's like, you know what? I love this. What if there's a certification? I said, well, find out. We were already on our third child. I was pregnant with our third child. And he emailed the association, and anyway, that same night, a month later, we got certified through positive
It was
discipline.
great.
Wow, it's like a
So-
whirlwind story.
It did. So, I found it, but he took it and ran with it. And I mean, it has really transformed our lives.
And that happened 2010, and that year we got certified. That year we made a transition, dropping everything. In fact, I was going through a job transition where we dropped everything and we decided to do this full time.
Wow.
So it was just crazy.
You were all in.
100%. 100%.
Yes. One, because it really, when we took the certification, I mean, just that workshop itself is just empowering.
Yep.
And then we said we were going to do this.
So we started in hotels giving conferences. And then one time, one parents are like, why don't you take it to schools? And we're like, why don't you take us to those schools? So they that's what they did. We created a package. They took it to the schools. And amazingly, we started in one school, and then all of a sudden, boom. So now we live in Southern California. We're here in Orange County. We're in Orange County, LA, Riverside, and we do this full time. But this is what happened. Then after year 2, we discovered we're empowering parents, but we discovered that there were 2 people, either marriage or not marriage, but they were having different styles on parenting, and that created a huge problem. So that's when we decided to create couples conferences, and that happened like 2014, probably 15. And we did conferences online and everything. And then 2017, we created an academy online where we do a lot of trainings online. So it's a beautiful journey. So we love it.
Wow. It's just, I love that it's all encompassing, right? It's all encompassing, because we know that parenting partnership really needs to be nurtured in order to transform our children, right? And benefit our children, and how much they're learning from what we're modeling in that partnership and in that relationship. So thank you for the incredible work that you are doing. I know that so many are benefiting, and now all of our listeners and viewers here get to benefit from that. So thank you. So let's talk about, I mean, I always like starting with definitions. I'm kind of a definition girl, just to like make sure that we all get on the same page. So let's talk about, what does that mean to parent on the same page? What does that mean to you? What does that look like? What does that sound like? What does that feel like? Let's kind of start there, if that's okay.
So I think everything started since we got, even when we were boyfriend and girlfriend, we started talking about it, right? So
yeah, so I think like for us being on the same page is at least having that same end goal, like the long run. What is it that we want for our children? What is it that we want for our marriage? And then what do we want our children to be that long term? And now in between, that's where we fill in. That's when we started feeling, okay, well, how are we going to get there? What is going to be our roadmap? And
so we put our values together, and then, because see, this is the thing. My background, I was raised back in Mexico, and back in Mexico, they use a chancla, the sandal, to spank. They use the belt. They use all kinds of. So for me, my background was very firm. I mean, to the extremes that are abusing. So on the other hand, Lisette.
Yeah, I was raised here. I'm a Latina. My parents are Mexican. I was raised here, but I had more kindness, more than anything. Which now, as we grew up, and now we're like the opposite. Now I'm like the firm parent, if you want to define that, and he's more of the kind parent.
Yeah.
And it's understanding where we, where we lean towards more.
Yeah, and this is the thing: being on the same page, getting to know each other. Like, for example, I'm more kind. So, for example, let's say in the morning, Janelle, 6 years old, she's gonna wake up and go to school, and let's say it's that day we need to get up at 6 o'clock, and I walked in and I'm like, oh, she's so cuddling to so, and for me it's so hard to wake her up. I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I go back. You know what, he said, why don't you, since she's more firm, she can walk in and it's easier for her, or vice versa. When she loses it, when she's too firm, and then that's when I come in. So we use our strength and our weaknesses to help each other instead of criticizing each other or attacking to each other. So that's being on the same page. When I say yes, she follows, and when she says no, I follow. So being on the same page, they know, the kids know that if they go to mom or dad, they're gonna find the same answer. So
Yeah.
There's that unity, right?
yes.
That's really important. And it all started, what I love about it is that it all started with a conversation.
Yes.
And it was that conversation that was really important to have. So what would you say, so for couples who are, who have been together for a long time, they're parenting now, they're married, not married, what would you say are some of those questions that they could even, because it's never too late, right? It's never too late to have the conversation. I think so much of what you shared is about understanding yourself, understanding your own history, understanding your own backgrounds, understanding your own baggage, what you're bringing to the relationship. And then you each had to make these conscious choices about what you were going to take with you, what you were going to leave behind. So are there any questions that you recommend that parents ask each other, even if they've been together for a long time and they're deep into parenting? What questions could they even sit down and talk about now?
You know what? One of the questions that we ask ourselves always is for our kids, that when they're 25, when they're 30, 40, what if, in fact, sometimes when we are in the dinner table, we're like, guys, if at this moment, at your age at 6, 9, at 11, 13, when you're 25, what would you say that would you remember about this quarantine, for example? What do you think you're gonna remember? So they said, you know what, that we had a good time. We had movie nights. We had bicycle rides. So the question is, what do you want your kids to remember when they're at home? What is it that what's your legacy? What do you want to, what kind of values you want your kids to take when they grow up? So I think that's the questions that they need to ask each other. Petitions and the legacy, the connection, and all that. So that's what every day we try to remember that. What are they going to remember now, as of right now, in 25 years from now or 20 years from now?
Yeah, it's like beginning with the end in mind.
Yes.
Yeah, that legacy. I love that. I love that. Thank you. So what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that couples who are raising children together are facing?
Yeah, I think one of them would be discipline under stress and guilt, right? So sometimes where we're, it's so, especially during this quarantine time, it's so hard to keep, to have that, that time, alone time, or, just that taking care of ourselves, but overreacting instead of acting, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. We, before the quarantine, we were going like this too fast. And our body, it kind of tell us, you know what, you have to slow down. You're going too fast. See, many times right now it gets to the point where parents focus on how can I empower my kid to make a living, and they focus too much on academics, that they forget also about how to model, how to be a dad, how to be a husband, how to be a wife, how to be a mom, how to be a dad, how to be a contributor to the community. And we talked about self-care. And I love your background on mindfulness. We have to bring all that kind of stuff. And then we call that foundation when it comes to spiritual, your faith in that. So that's always, we talked about getting it all together, be present, because if we don't do that, we're missing it. We're not enjoying our parenthood. And so that's one of the biggest mistakes I would say. People, they don't slow down. You gotta slow down, and you gotta be able to smell the roses. So I would say that.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's really what you're bringing attention to too, is recognizing how that fast-paced life is actually causing so much disconnection. And it's causing that disconnection, as so many of us know, just in the relationship we have with our kids. And sometimes I feel like, even just as I'm thinking about it now, we're so focused on the relationship with our kids, and almost that partnership, that parenting partnership, right, that we have with our spouse or partner kind of gets put aside, right? Especially depending on like if you have littles or whenever. So I think that really exactly like what you're saying. And it goes back to that legacy. Okay, what do we want, right? So even that slowing down allows us to reflect
because
on
every
that.
day they're looking at us as model, as how to live life, how to truly enjoy life. Because see, sometimes we live in a society where having more is it's better. And you know what? It's not everything about that. It's about little details, and those little details, it's like telling your kid every single day, you know what, I love you, hug them, looking at their eyes, have intentional time, being a conscious and intentional parent. And I think that's the joy of being a parent.
Yeah, and I think also intentionality with your couple, right? Because we're modeling, how to treat another human being.
And you know what?
With each other.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but many times, like for example, he said, does something good for me, and then we have two boys and two girls, and then I called the boys and I told, hey guys, did you see what mommy did to me? He goes, yeah. Well, those little details, make sure to bring those in your marriage. And then same thing with the girls. I do something for my wife, and then she does the same thing with the girls. Girls, see how dad treated me? Well, this is the way men should treat you.
Yeah.
So when you get into a relationship, try to see those things. So every day I respect her. I speak good about her in front of the table in every way, so they get that it's important. My partner is more important than you. So that why we model that, and that gives them a sense of belonging, significance, self-esteem, and they feel grounded that mom and dad are on the same page, and we see ourselves long term.
Yeah.
And it's always good to plan ahead, have plans long term, because it gives them a sense of security.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that we never have disagreements, and we have had disagreements, and even in front of the kids, and we resolve that. We don't hide away from it, and we try to do it of course the most respectful way possible. But they see that they are resolving it, and they've even they're figuring it out. Like they even know that they're coming to a conclusion, or they're finding solutions to something.
Yeah, many times before it was like, don't fight in front of the kids, and we're like, resolve conflicts in front of the kids so they can learn how to do it.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, and I was just gonna say, so what is that? What would you say? I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I think that's so important. Is that it doesn't, in a healthy relationship, it doesn't mean that there's no conflict.
Yeah.
Right. There's just not. I think of it as like there's not a fear of conflict. So, what would you say, like for those watching, for those listening, when you do have disagreements, what is the language that you use? What do you say to each other? What is it that you aim and strive to model for the kids when it comes to conflict and resolving conflict?
Yeah. Well, one thing we tell them, you got to fight with elegance, with style. With the moment that you scream, the moment that you say bad words, you're not fighting the right way. But the moment that you wait and listen, and one of the things, remember how the brain works. Yeah. And there's a moment we talked about it. Right now I just can't right now talk to you right now because I feel like I'm gonna kill you. So we plan ahead. What are the things that I'm gonna do so I can get into my balance? And one of the things that I like to do is either go to the backyard, or we have a prayer room. So I go to my prayer room and I either pray, read a book or something. And then now that I'm calm, now I go and if I see that I made a mistake, I apologize. And if it's in front of the kids, better. You know what? The way I talked to you, the way I did that, I'm sorry. Would you forgive me? Mm-hmm. So, and vice versa. So when they see that, in fact, my teenager, when we have little conflict, and she's like, go ahead. and she's ready to watch the fight. And and it's good because she's not scared. She stays there. So I love that we have that kind of connection where we can resolve these issues. For example, last night we had a little conflict, and we're like, we said we have to resolve this issue because tomorrow we have the interview
Yes.
and we have to be in the same page. And so, and that's the beauty of working together because we work together. So we got to have the tools to resolve conflicts right away. We have an academy for a whole year. We recorded, and right before recording it, we have conflicts, and we're like, we got to put it together. Yeah. And we did, and we finished that. And it was times that we couldn't, and we went into the session, and at the end, once we were like this, you know what, I'm sorry. I think I did this and I hurt your feelings and I apologize.
Yeah, it's something that we try to remind each other is like, I try to remember, okay, you're not my enemy. I'm not your enemy. We want the best for both of us. So what, I want the best for you. I know that you want the best for me. So how are we going to resolve it? How are we going to come, how did I hurt you? Tell me. So I can apologize and vice versa.
Yeah. It's like dropping that defensiveness, right? We have to be willing to drop that.
And you know what, Debbie? Yes. Defensiveness comes also when there is too much stress, anxiety. And it's really hard for you to resolve conflicts when you're not taking care of yourself. Right. So that's where we have to go into have done exercise? Have I rested? Have I eating properly? So all those things has to be together. And many times I've told her, you know what, this has nothing to do with you. Yeah. It's just that it's been 3-4 days that I haven't exercised, that I've been kind of overwhelmed with stuff. So I'm sorry. It has
and I have to remember not to take it personal.
Right.
Right. And it's like, okay, it has nothing to do with me. Voices, stop telling me that he's just this and that and that, just stop and respect, where he's at. In that moment, it's him and not me.
Yeah, exactly. And when we're going, as you referred to earlier, it's really hard to take the time to do that reflection, right? To pay attention. What am I telling myself right now? And what is his intention? And knowing kind of, which then again, it like all goes back to that first conversation, which I'm sure isn't one conversation. It's an ongoing conversation. And, Tony, I'm interested to hear from you if you're open to sharing, given what you shared with us about your background, that was much more strict. I'm sure coming to this, and especially when it comes to conflict and managing conflict and then modeling conflict, what was that process like for you? What can you tell us about that? Because that's such a huge, I know in positive discipline, we always talk about that paradigm shift. So what was that process like for you?
You know what? I think one of my, the point of transformation, one time I went to a seminar for 3 days. It was about getting to know myself, getting to know my stories and all that. And they did an activity. It was about writing a letter to the person who really impacted the most. So it was my dad. So my dad, when I was a child, I didn't get any hug, any kiss, or any I love you. So it was more hitting or stories like you're good for nothing. And I knew that he was a good man, but he had an addiction, alcohol. He had so many stuff. And I remember I was in LA and he was back in Mexico that summer. And I wrote the letter, I called him. And one of the things that I said, you know what, Dad, I'm this seminar and I have this exercise to do, and it just follow along. So one of the thing is, you know what, Dad, this is when I was a child, I got hurt when you did this, that. And then I said, and you know what, Dad, even though all that happened, if I were to choose my dad again, I would choose you. And just remember, I went right. Because we both were crying, and my dad never cried. So, and he was crying, and he said, son, what did you expect? I was raised like a little animal. I lost my dad when I was 6, and I'm sorry. When he says those things, a shift changed in me. And then when he came back, we hug each other, we kiss each other, and I always tell them, everybody, that all the kisses and hugs that I didn't get as a child, I'm getting it right now. He's 82 years old, and every time we see each other, and when we talk, right now he's in Mexico, and when he comes over here, it's an amazing relationship. So that heals my past huge. So why my kids, and sometimes comes back that when I was a child with my dad, and I'm with my boy, for example, doing some stuff, and I'm critical. And then I said, you know what, do it this way. And he goes like, and then he's trying their best. I'm sorry, Dad, I'm sorry. And then I'm like, and later, and then got it. And then when we're eating, I'm like, you know what, guys, I have something to say. I want to apologize to you, Josh. The way I spoke to you, it wasn't the right way. It's just that I grew up with that, and you have nothing to do with that. And I'm sorry. You are great. You're an amazing kid. And he started crying. I'm sorry. Crying. So those little moments are the ones that change everything in that. So I think that's what helped me a lot. Just that having that shift with my dad.
And of course, learning about positive discipline and the tools. Like, okay, now I know how to put it together. Now I know how to, have that relationship and have that.
Yeah, because I knew that I was not going to hit my kids. I knew that. But when Juliana was 3, 4, my first one, we would give her timeouts. And at the beginning it was beautiful. She would stay and everything. But then later on it was hard. I have to hold her. And you got to stay, and it's for your own good. Just relax and but then after positive discipline comes a positive timeout. And what a huge difference. And that's when what Lisa was saying is having the tools change everything.
Having the tools changes everything. And it also sounds like in that experience, just seeing your father as a human, right? The humanness within, right? That almost like seeing him as a little boy, that's something that comes up a lot, I know, just in kind of doing this work and reflecting. And it's just such a conscious thing, right? That's with you always, I imagine, is, okay, how am I going to show up in this moment? Because there's always that default, right? Like you were saying, even when we have all the tools, we're not perfect, right?
Boom.
Yeah.
Yes. And we have to create a plan. And we always tell them, at the end of the day, we close chapters with our kiddos. And if, you know what, Giovanni, I'm sorry. The way I treated you or the way I spoke to you, it wasn't right. And I want to apologize. Would you forgive me? And the beauty is you're modeling. And then when we have traditions like on Fridays, we have sleepovers. I sleep with the boys, Lisa sleep with the girls, and then we just talk. And then before we were falling asleep, then all of a sudden Giovanni's like, hey, Josh, I'm sorry for what I did this evening. I'm like, oh, yes, I like that. So they're modeling all what they're hearing and seeing. And that's our legacy. So they know how to resolve conflicts and how to apologize. It's a huge thing.
It's a huge thing. And just the fact that you're now able to do something with your own children that wasn't done with you, I think is just, that's what's so transformational. So what suggestions do you offer to parents? Like what kind of words of wisdom, suggestions do you have for parents who are really on different pages? I mean, I know a lot of parents that I work with, I mean, they're in different books. And so my goal isn't even to get in the same page. It's sometimes like, let's just get in the same book. But what are some of the suggestions that you have for parents who are really struggling with different parenting styles?
Yeah. Well, number one is you gotta before you be a parent, be a couple, be a husband, be a wife. Date your wife, date your husband, date your partner. You got to start with that, because if you are in a strong relationship, then you can better parent your kids. And then date your kids. And that's one of the things that we love doing. We know what Joshua likes, Giovanni, Janelle, Juliana, when we go out. Have those special moments of connection.
And like we said, also creating family traditions, it's such a bonding time, if it's, watching a movie, Friday night movie, baking cookies, or,
we buy this cookie dough, and we're like, if we would have bought stocks since the beginning, we would have been rich, because every evenings on Fridays and Saturdays we have movie nights, and we bake cookies, the cookie dough, chocolate cookie dough, and creating those sleepovers, and then right now summer we do we're planning. Last night we were planning it. What are the things that you guys want to see in summer? Where do you guys want to go? Obviously there are some limitations, but that's where creativity comes in. So I think it's just enjoying parenthood. We always tell you only have 18 seasons, 18 summers, 18 springs. I might as well treat them as unique. Right now, my kids, they're like 11. It's only this year. Next year is going to be 12, and then a teenager. totally different.
Mhm.
As matter will enjoy where they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you said it, something that you also brought up earlier is that you each have kind of your strengths or your weaknesses or your different, kind of styles. So what do you think is optimal for parents when one is when they're struggling with that? Because it sounds like you each know your differences, and yet you've come to resolve and come to a resolution as far as, okay, you're going to take this on, I'll take this on, right? And so there's kind of an understanding. How do you suggest for parents who are really on opposite kind of spectrums, or maybe even not so opposite, just how is there a middle ground? Do you believe that there's a middle ground? How do you help them to bridge that gap from being so extreme to finding that same page, creating that same page?
You know what? Sometimes we become so critical about the other person, and sometimes we kind of criticize, and that's that, and we kind of tell them what not to do. And that's where the phrase from positive discipline, connection before correction, and that applies to couples too.
Yeah.
That's why we always mention dating, talking to each other. For example, Lisa and I, we wake up every morning, we have our what's it called, schedule. We have a prayer room, we meet every day, and we pray together, we talk to each other, we plan our day, we exercise. So those are the things that gives us the so, like, for example, something is going on with, let's say, a party is coming up and she's stressed, so I know she's not going to be 100% as a mom, so she might need my help, because when she plans a party, she plans a party.
Oh gosh.
And so I know that, so I have to come in and help her with other stuff. So I think it's just a connection.
Yeah.
Being on the same page is, that's what it
Like
is.
something that's really helped us is knowing your partner, right?
Or top card.
The
for
top
example.
card is just, it changed our marriage. It really did. Knowing, when he's stressed and when his everyday, and and vice versa. And just understanding, okay, and like Tony said, like not being critical of the other person. Well, it's understanding, okay, well, where are you coming from? Or, maybe you do need that time. So it really is having that.
Yeah, and also it's very important. We put it on their phone to run. For example, I asked Lisa, then she asked me, what are your three priority needs, your needs? And so I always remember, have I fulfilled her needs? And for example, love language. She's active service. So what can I do to fulfill her needs? So 3 things, I have to write it down, and I have to check every single day. So, and when she's frustrated, instead of assuming, I always ask with this question: have I done something to make you stressed or frustrated? No. Well, is there anything that makes you frustrated? Well, yeah, this is what. How can I help you? Instead of criticizing or assuming things or listening to that voice, just go straight to the point and goes, how can I help you? Have I done something? What's going on with you? And that really helps a lot. Yeah.
It's amazing how so many of these tools that we talk about in positive discipline that really apply to children. We talk so much about how are we showing up, what are their needs, what's beneath the behavior, really does. It's just such a beautiful reminder that it really is so important and vital for the relationship. It's about relationship tools, right? It's not only parent-child, it's just relationship tools. It's funny because I always say to parents, I'm not really here to give you a technique or a tool. Right? I'm really here to help you learn how to be in relationship with your child. And that also goes for in relationship with your partner and your spouse. So yeah, that's
so true.
And once in a while, go to a couple seminars, read a book together on relationship on couples. So that really helps so much.
Understanding how the man thinks, understanding how women think, just understanding our differences.
Yeah, and taking that time. I mean, when parents aren't on the same page, what effect does that have on the kids? What might we see in their behavior? What might we not see in their behavior when parents aren't on the same page?
Yeah, it can be so much. One can be entitlement. One can be so kind. And many times when there's argument, we go into revenge. So what did your mom said? That I can't eat it. Eat it. Yeah, go ahead and eat it. So then there is that confusion. Mixed messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that hurt their self-esteem. they're not grounded, they're confused. So it's very important for, or one of them is very overprotective. And then the other one, just let it go, come on. And they're like, oh my gosh, so who's wrong? And many times they feel that they are the problem. And just because mom and daddy, they're not in the same page, they feel, oh my gosh, they're supposed to know better than me. So therefore I'm the problem. So that it can hurt their emotions.
Yeah, I imagine there's so much anxiety that gets created, right? And when kids are anxious, it can come out in all sorts of forms. So just knowing that and reminding ourselves of that, which, you know, again, goes back to that, what are we modeling and what are we embodying?
And many times kids um, kids are the reason why couples fight. And because of that is they're assuming, they're like, I'm the problem. If you know what, and then when they come to teenagers, they just sometimes they even trying to commit suicide, because you know what, if I wouldn't be here, they wouldn't have those problems. And especially when it comes to divorce, separation, they put them on themselves. So that's why it's important to be on the same page and work on the relationship.
Yeah, and it just starts with that awareness of that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh my God, I could have this conversation with you guys all day. We could talk about this for hours. So are there any other tips or tools or just parting words of wisdom that you wanted to share with our listeners and viewers?
I think it's more being intentional on yourself, self-care. Many people have talked about me, how can I be a better parent? And I always do, be better you. Work on yourself, take time to rest, exercise, eat well. All that is very important. Then work on your relationship with your partner, with your wife, husband. And then go into focus on what's the really purpose of being a parent. And it's just helping your kids find their purpose in life. It's what are their strengths, what are the weaknesses, and then being intentional, and then bring structure, have discipline and all that, but it starts from the top. And when they feel that you ain't really truly enjoying them, that's where self-esteem comes in, that's where joy comes in, and it's a beautiful thing, and they get it. So,
such a journey, isn't it?
yeah, it is a journey. It's a beautiful journey. Sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah.
But always remember that it's just 18 seasons. If you do a great job of those 18 seasons, you get to enjoy adulthood.
Yeah.
So now is the time to impact their kids. Now is the time.
Now is the
So,
time.
yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you both so much for this. So how can parents find you, and how can they follow the amazing work that you're doing?
Yeah.
So we're on Instagram on @_Tony Elise. And also we're starting an email list, subscribe.tonyelise.com. And we're in Facebook. If you disciplinapositiva.org, that's our Facebook.
So we have a lot of Spanish material. However, we're working on bringing something in English. That's why when you go to that page, it's just about dropping your email, and later on we have a webinar or something, an event, so you can get that information. We're planning to do something in a month or 2 months, so you can get that information.
And we're in YouTube also. We have a couple of videos. They are in Spanish.
Videos.
Fantastic.
If we can
do something in English.
But TonyElise.tv.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, good. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, parents, I really encourage you to follow Tony and Liz. I mean, as you can see, you just feel their energy, right? It's like, it's infectious. And that's what I love so much about you guys. It's just really infectious. And I'm just really grateful for all that you shared with our listeners and viewers today. Parents, please take out your journals. And when you're ready, if you're driving, don't take out your journal. But anyway, take out your journals, set aside some time to really think about this conversation that we had. And I love, Tony, what you shared about really it starts with us, right? It starts with the self-care. So even if in your journal, or just take a note, and what's one thing that you can even just do for yourself? How, what's an area that maybe you've been neglecting that would really be beneficial? What are some questions that maybe you want to ask your partner about your legacy and what you want to leave for your legacy. There's so many gems today. So just again, thank you both so much for your time, for your passion, for your dedication to this work, and all that you offer to just this entire community. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm just so glad that we were able to have this time together today. So thank you, Tony and Liz. Parents, thank you again for joining us, for being here. And I look forward to seeing you soon for another day of the Becoming an Empowered Parent series. So bye, Tony and Liz. And bye, everybody. See you soon. Bye.